sense because at least you're helping homeless people get off of another addiction that is going to lead to their unhealthiness. But how about this? If you can afford $13 for a pack of cigarettes or however much it costs right now, maybe you're putting yourself in a position that you don't need to be. Now, clearly, if you get rid of cigarette smoking, you're not going to get someone who's currently on the streets off the streets, but it's not going to hurt. Okay, never mind. Now that I know it targets the homeless, I'm okay with it. I've changed my position. Let's find out what else is trending.
What's trending? Let's get political.
So Ted Lieu is a congressman from California. He's a Democrat. He's a progressive. He has gone out of his way to try to create a sort of celebrity for himself in the world of Twitter, much like Donald Trump has done, instead of actually legislating. Which leads us to today's dumbest tweet of the day.
It's time for the dumbest tweet of the day.
Oh, it's so pathetic. This is what he wrote on Twitter, and I responded to it, and then he got into a fight with me. And then for the last 24 hours, I've been talking to silhouettes of, like, eggs on Twitter with 14 followers yelling at me. His tweet is, "Dear real Donald Trump, your grandfather came to America at the age of 16, did not speak English well, was poor, and started off as a barber. So yes, I will support a merit system based on the same criteria that allowed your grandfather to immigrate to America."
And that was the dumbest tweet of the day.
So the thing is, his grandfather came in 1885. By the way, he didn't stay in the United States. He left and went back to Germany for a bit. But he came here in 1885. When he was here, he started a whole bunch of businesses, including a restaurant, by the way, in Seattle. Did you know that? He's got his ties. The grandfather, I think, is Frederick Trump. He came to this area. He started at least 2 restaurants in the Seattle area. At some point, he went into Snohomish County. It was a city called Monte Cristo, Washington at that point, and he did some business there. He was all over the place. One of his restaurants was advertised to include rooms for ladies, a common euphemism for prostitution.
Yikes.
He was in no, this was normal at the time. It was the Seattle Red Light District, which is now still probably downtown Seattle.
If Trump's ancestor is a brothel owner?
No, he was a restaurant owner that condoned prostitution.
Oh, okay.
He sold ribs.
What a...
Chicken wings. I don't know.
Ribs okay.
So, but here's the interesting thing. So we came here in 1885. Okay, 1885 is not 2018. Can we understand that there are economic decisions being made for this country as it relates to immigration that is going to be dramatically different in 2018 than it was in 1885? That when you decide to let people into this country legally to immigrate here, it's generally because you're trying to do what's best for the United States. And at the time, in 1885, I mean, really in the 19th century, what was happening then? What was an industry that was doing really, really well? Manufacturing. Particularly in the North. Manufacturing was killing it. It was growing at unprecedented numbers. They had a deep-seated desire, a need, a desperation for really cheap workers. And so what happened at the time, we had a bunch of these companies, these manufacturing companies that were going overseas and basically getting people to come to this country to take these jobs that weren't paying very well. In fact, it was equivalent almost of slave labor. To the point where in 1885, you got the Alien Contract Labor Law that was created and passed, although I think it didn't have that much teeth to it. But it basically prohibited companies from just getting people overseas to come to this country for work, because they saw that there was something going wrong with that. There were national security implications back then, even in 1885 with that. So when we're talking about immigration policy in 2018, should we acknowledge that when we're comparing it to 1885, where we'll let anybody in because they were taking on jobs that no longer exist, that maybe we should maybe just a little bit, Ted Lieu, in your dumb tweet, maybe update the way that we're thinking about immigration policy? Like, you can come up with a merit-based system that also allows for people who are low-wage, low-income type of workers, low-skilled workers who don't necessarily have the education, but maybe don't create a system in which we're getting more of those than people who come to this country who can take the jobs available to them. That just seems like something that makes sense to me. But instead, we're pretending that the scenario in 1885 is somehow relevant to 2018. How is it relevant? How is it relevant? I'd love to know an answer. And now Ted Lieu, he responded to my tweet, and I called him out on it, and he responded to it like, dismissed my argument. And so immediately after, and I sent this tweet like seconds after he responded, so he should have seen it. said, come on the radio with me. I'll go into a studio right now. We'll record an interview.
Mm-hmm.
Send me your direct message me. We'll exchange numbers and we'll do it.
He didn't respond. Wait, what was your response to him? Or what was his response?
I don't remember. He said something.
Yeah, big surprise.
Oh, here it is. Here's my tweet to him. It's funny that Lou is pretending the economic forces behind the immigration system back when Grandpa Trump came here are the same as 2018. But it's also But it's also funny for people to pretend Lou is an intelligent lawmaker, not one simply trying to become a Twitter celebrity.
Which you've also been called out for by other people on Twitter saying that.
Oh yeah, because I'm going out of my way to become a Twitter celebrity.
Of course you are.
Yeah, I'm just trying to gain listeners here. I don't care if someone in Raleigh, North Carolina knows who I am.
Your motivations are entirely pure.
Of course, I don't have an ego. So then he responded, by the way, he liked my tweet.
Okay, yeah, I saw that.
That's funny, and I liked his tweet. Feel free to make fun of my intelligence because I'm cool like that. Which, that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand that one, but okay. Right, that one is, well,
do you think Ted Lieu's really even writing these anyway?
I do think he is. I've seen him interviewed on TV. He talks like this, but that line just doesn't make sense.
No, I don't really understand.
Like, I'm cool like that. Okay, you mean you're dumb like that. But
he doesn't care about you. That's
well, he cares enough to respond. But the economic forces then are the same as now. Immigrants coming to America to seek the American dream. This is what made America great and will continue to make America great. No, it's not what will continue to make America great. There was clearly a role, like his position seems to be more open borders. Anyone who wants to come here should come here. That's not a mainstream position even of the Democratic Party. No one thinks like that other than crazy people like Ted Lieu, who's too much of a coward to actually come on and talk to me rather than send me a stupid little tweet. You're listening to the Jason Rancher. Time to get your work the right way with right way traffic.
Traffic in and coming out of the south end is cleaning up nicely as far north as 405, but north of here I'm seeing absolutely no change. Both floating bridges are still socked in. It's heavy actually out of Issaquah on I-90. The traffic along Boeing Field on northbound 5 is barely moving from the Boeing Access Road all the way up to 520, and the S-curves are jammed in both directions. Swinomish Casino and Lodge is adding a brand new non-smoking area to give guests a better atmosphere with updated slot technology. There's more to explore at Swinomish Casino and Lodge. That's AM 770 KTTH traffic. I'm Tammy Bennett.
Owe the IRS $10,000 or more? Call the tax doctor to settle tax debt for less. 800-542-9112. 800-542-9112.
Laundry service that picks up dirty clothes from your room, washes and folds them, and returns them within 2 days.
Senators Tom Cotton and Perdue from Georgia, both of them said, no, I never heard anything of the kind. That's ridiculous. And it turns out now we're reporting what they remember is that he said blank house, not blank hole. Or with a very similar meaning. And so it's sort of disingenuous to say you never heard anything of the kind if you just heard a slightly different euphemism for something really bad.
Is the dispute really over his choice of words? Because that seems to be silly. Presidents have used salty language since, well, we've known about it since the Nixon tapes. Now we have the Johnson tapes. It was the same for him. So why has this become such a big deal?
I think the bad word is just, it's not about the vulgarity itself. It's about the idea behind the vulgarity, which was that President Trump was denigrating a huge mass of countries, almost all of them black African countries or countries of people of African descent, and saying that we shouldn't take people from those countries. We should take people from countries like Norway. He just met the Prime Minister of Norway, so, why couldn't we have people like this? To categorize who America wants, not in terms of their qualifications or their ideals or anything else, but to categorize them effectively in terms of race. That's something that it's not what America's about. It's not what presidents have said in the past. That's what's really making the stir, not the vulgarity.
What are the Democrats holding out for, though? I've heard now that there are some Democrats who want no wall. There are some Democrats who may believe that it's also kind of, what can I say, bigoted to choose only skilled immigrants when there are people who are suffering and should come, even though it's just because they want to escape poverty. So what's the position that the Democrats are taking here?
Well, the sort of most articulated version of what they would accept is what Dick Durbin, the Senate, the number two person in the Senate for the Democrats, accepted in this bipartisan deal with Lindsey Graham and Jeff Flake from the Republican side, which was a deal to legalize the Dreamers, the folks who were brought to this country illegally as little children, but also that deal would have given a lot more money for border enforcement. It would have given some money for wall construction, and it also would have reduced what they call the diversity lottery, which is a program that gives out visas to a number of people from countries around the world.
So the Democrats are okay with more money for wall construction?
Yes, I think that was the implication, at least, of that deal. And we don't know how many votes that would have gotten in the Senate.
Now, are we talking the deal from a week ago, or is this some new deal that we have yet to hear?
No, from a week ago, last week. But there were bills in the Senate in 2013 that included a lot more money for border enforcement that a lot of Democrats signed on to. It got like 68 votes in the Senate. So I think they're willing to accept something. We haven't seen exactly what they'll accept.
Well, then I don't understand what the holdup is. I understand, because if you're saying that they're still willing to accept the deal that we all saw on television last week, which was do DACA and some modicum of border security now, and go for a comprehensive fix later, what's the holdup?
It seemed like, the holdup is Trump, basically. Trump had said, according to our reporting, yes, I'll accept that. And if you remember in a public meeting, like the day before, last week, he said, whatever you pass, I'll sign. And then he's changed his mind, which is to say he wants something much more, he wants a lot more money for the wall. I think he doesn't want a deal for Dreamers, at least in the same way. He wants the diversity lottery shrunk even more. He's suddenly, in the space of an hour or two, talking to different sets of people, became much more hardline. So I think he doesn't want what he said he wanted, just on Wednesday and early Thursday last week.
But things like this don't happen in a vacuum. Somebody either caught his ear or let me ask you this. There was, and we haven't talked about this, the Ninth Circuit decided that DACA, in fact, could not be repealed, that the judge saying that it was, in essence, bait and switch, that the government invited these people to sign up and now says, no, we're not going to protect you, which is, of course, screwing up a lot of people's lives. Is he worried, perhaps, that because of that, the Democrats are in a much stronger position because you have the legal system saying that DACA has to stay anyway?
From our reporting, it seems like what happened, the people who changed his mind were Chief of Staff John Kelly, who's a pretty hardline person on immigration, and then people that Kelly sort of brought to the White House, people like Tom Cotton from Arkansas, some Bob Goodlatte, the congressman from Virginia, people who want a lot less illegal and legal immigration. They want legal immigration to change and be reduced. So it seems like they sort of caught his ear and told him, look, your base isn't going to like that. I think the bigger picture is that both sides think they have something to lose, something to win from a standoff. I think the Republicans feel like if there's a government shutdown in which they can say, Democrats shut down the government because they want to help illegal immigrants, they benefit. I think the Democrats feel like if DACA is unresolved, and if Trump seems to be victimizing DACA Dreamers the whole course of this year, it will help them electorally in November. I don't think, both folks are weighing those things against the legitimate need to do something to settle the status of these folks.
So both sides have see an advantage in actually screwing things up and screwing these people over. So the Republicans feel that if the government shuts down, they can convince people to blame the Democrats for that. And the Democrats are looking at ending DACA, and they're just salivating over the literally hundreds of thousands of cell phone videos of families being ripped apart and people being deported so they can win votes in 2018. That's what's going on?
That's my cynical interpretation of what's happening. I think what really is going to happen is you're going to continue to see a bunch of short-term punts, temporary funding bills that push the government forward for a month or 2 months that will last maybe until the election. I don't see any sort of grand deal coming together the way that we thought was possible last week.
This shows the depravity of our system of government then, because I guess this must be a fundamental flaw of democracy, where votes have now become everything, and doing a decent job for people has taken a back seat to just continuing in office. And since elections are since every election is now a presidential election, that means we have an election every 2 years. That means you get, what was it on the West Wing? Yeah, you get 100 days to do anything. And if you can't get it done then the rest is just all electioneering. Is that what we're paying for here?
It creates a system where everybody's playing for a system where their party controls all the levers of power. And then you're right, you have about 100 days to do something. In Trump's case, case, he has all levers of power, but those 100 days have elapsed. So the tax bill may be the most consequential thing he does. Everybody else just starts playing for the next election.
All right, well, thank you for those encouraging words today, David.
You're welcome.
You really filled out our morning. David Farenthal from the Washington Post. He joins us every Tuesday. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
It is 8:23. Real-time traffic is brought to you by Michael's Toyota, Volkswagen, and Subaru of Bellevue. Here's Chris.
And like a closing net, all of our traffic is just crunching in the closer you get to downtown Seattle. Around the outside, it's not too bad, but getting into the core is really slowing down. Both of the lake bridges now in the westbound direction are big-time delays. We're looking at 30-minute drives on I-90 or 520 between Bellevue and Seattle. For 90, that's a 5-minute delay. For 520, that's about a 12-minute delay to deal with. Looking at the northbound drive of I-5, it is very slow from Boeing Field on into downtown. It's an hour drive from Federal Way, but close to 40 of those minutes are in from South Center. Looking at still a 40-minute drive, or make that 50-minute drive from Renton to Bellevue, it's solid all the way up through 44th and Newcastle. A little more slowing over I-92. Looking at, make that I-90, not I-92, there isn't one. 92 is over in Granite Falls.
I-90 also.
Yeah, exactly. I've been having a rough morning doing the thing that I'm paid to do, which is speaking. Looking at I-90 in the westbound direction out of Issaquah, it's pretty slow up through Westlake Sammamish Parkway before breaking free. The Valley Freeway's not too bad, getting close to 50 minutes real time on that drive. Still dealing with northbound Pacific Highway parking lot trying to get into the Kent Des Moines area. The signal is still dark at 260th, and I still have not been able to get any confirmation.
All right, that's what he said. Okay, so in order to prove you're not a racist, and not even prove it, but to start going down the path of not being a racist, you have to pass legislation that we want. I mean, that's generally how progressives act, right? This is how Democrats act. They will label you a racist if you don't happen to support one idea that they might have. Even if you think you have a better idea, even if you think that you can come up with something even better that will support the Dreamers in this case, if you do not support a bill that Chuck Schumer wants you to support, he will call you a racist. That is weaponizing a hurtful, hateful, disturbing term. So you mean to tell me if he supports that, you're not going to call him racist anymore? Oh no, sorry. It's the first. Yeah. It's the first step. Yeah. So long as he says and does everything that Chuck Schumer wants, you're not a racist. And by the way, for some reason the Democrats are tying the Dreamer program, the DACA program, to this shutdown is because it gives them leverage. On Friday they have to come up with another spending bill, or the government shuts down. The Democrats are choosing to tie DACA funding and the DACA future to a government shutdown. They're doing that because they can use it as leverage. They think that the country will blame the Republicans for shutting down the government, even though in this case it's the Democrats who are shutting down the government. Here is Sarah Huckabee Sanders talking with a reporter this morning.
He said last night, Mr. President, show you're not a racist, cut a deal on DACA.
Look, I think that is an outrageous claim. And frankly, I think if the critics of the president were who he said he was, why did NBC give him a show for a decade on TV? Why did Chuck Schumer and all of his colleagues come and beg Donald Trump for money? If they are who they want to try to portray him as, why did they want to be, with him for years and years in various activities, whether it was events and fundraisers and other things? I think it's just an outrageous and ludicrous excuse, and they need to get on board and start actually doing what they were elected to do.
Department of Homeland Security chief earlier today, about 20 minutes ago, she says there's been a 30% spike in unaccompanied minors coming over the border recently. This is why they want to make sure that, along with approving DACA, they also have a secondary act saying, we should maybe just a little bit bump up the security on the border, so we've not just incentivized people to come here illegally because they know that they'll get some sort of approval from the Democrats from DACA. So we'll see what ends up happening. We'll have an update with Fox News at 9 o'clock. But when we come back, we're going to take a deep dive into the drug and nuisance houses in Snohomish County. You're listening to The Jason Ranch Show.
It's never been more important than now to listen to Rush.
3 years ago, liberals in
Seattle insisted on raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now a study confirms what everybody knew except the left. Instead of helping workers, the minimum wage increase hurt them. And even with this fresh evidence, liberals will never admit that they were wrong. They'll find ways to inflict even more pain on the economy and kill more jobs. That's just what they do.
On AM 770 KTTH. When people get older, their health problems can get complicated, and your doctor doesn't have the time or the insurance support to do what needs to be done. So they often just tell you, oh well, that's normal for your age. Mental fatigue, low libido, low energy, that's just normal? At Longevity Medical Clinic, we think normal stinks. And the truth is, normal can often be dangerous, leading to a higher risk of cancer, dementia, stroke, heart disease, and on and on. That's why at Longevity, we test your genetics, telomeres, inflammatory markers, and a whole lot more. By taking...
will be drawn every half hour between noon and 10 p.m. each Monday in January. All total, 21 players will pocket their share of big cash and prizes every single week. Find all the details at TulalipCasino.com.
This is a message for anyone with severe shoulder, hip, or knee pain. There is now an FDA-regulated stem cell procedure which may be better than surgery. Dr. Mark Wagner, a family and sports medicine physician in Seattle for over 25 years, recently introduced this procedure here. And Dr. Wagner, the difference is that this uses a patient's own stem cells to regenerate healthy tissue.
Dave, they're amazing. They know what to do. We can fix muscle, tendon, bone, and cartilage with stem cells. It's a new era in orthopedic medicine.
It's an hour-and-a-half office procedure. How long does it take to see results?
6 to 12 weeks is where we start to see the effects of the stem cells.
I've now spoken with several of your patients, and they've experienced some pretty incredible improvements.
Phenomenal results. We're seeing the majority of patients to be at least 80% improved after a year.
So, whether it's a shoulder, knee, or hip that's giving you problems, before you choose surgery, see Dr. Mark Wagner first. Learn more and hear from several patients I've interviewed at SeattleStemCellClinic.com. SeattleStemCellClinic.com.
Carter Subaru's deal for 2 passes to ski or board Stevens Pass when you purchase any new or certified pre-owned Subaru is still going on now, so it's not too late to get in on this. If you can't ski or snowboard, it's really no problem. You'll get 2 learn to ski or snowboard packages for Stevens Pass. This is Colleen O'Brien. It's a great deal, and it comes with a great Subaru. I'm driving the Subaru Outback now, and to tell you everything I love about this car would take more than 60 seconds, so I'm just sort of giving you little bursts of what I love about the Outback anytime I can get on the radio and talk about it. Some highlights for me: I love the keyless entry. I've always got my hands full with my child or groceries, got my purse, and it's just great to be able to keep the key fob in my purse. I don't have to dig around for it, and when I grab the door handle, it automatically unlocks. I also like that, when I get to my car, say it's dark outside, I'm feeling a little bit creeped out, the car actually greets me by turning on lights and illuminates the space around me. So there's great safety features there too. Just the small things that I love about the Outback. Go test drive one today at Carter Subaru. They're in Shoreline and Ballard, and you can always find them at CarterSubaru.com.
A documentary service fee up to $150 may be added to the sale price or capitalized cost.
Have Tile Lines give you a free design consultation and guide you through your next tile or countertop project. View thousands of home designs and book your complimentary design consultation at TileLines.com.
Live from the Cairo Radio News Center.
2 separate train accidents this morning. One near the King Street station in Seattle killed a man. A freight train hit him. The other is in Monroe, and Snohomish Fire says the train hit a person this morning.
The conductor said as they were coming through town that they hit a pedestrian, and so they were able to call in to 911.
She says she can't say how long this train in Monroe will be blocking traffic. We do not know the condition of that person either. Snohomish Fire will only say they are still searching for that person. On Capitol Hill,
I did not hear that word used.
Is the official testimony of the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen.
The president used tough language in general, as did other congressmen in the room.
She's being questioned by the Senate Judiciary Committee on the DACA program, one that protects undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as kids. Democrats are threatening to block a funding bill which would send the government into shutdown come Friday if Republicans don't join them in a bipartisan effort to protect DACA recipients. The Dow is in in record territory again, having hit the 26,000 mark for the first time just after trading began this morning. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says this is the result of a few things.
We have the patterns from last year that still exist this year. The global economy is growing faster than expected. That is propelling corporate profits, and interest rates are still low. Add on to that, here in the United States this year, we've got corporate tax cuts from 35 to 21%, a continuation of the loosening of regulations, very helpful for companies in energy and financial services.
Right now on Wall Street, the Dow is up 156, so retreated just a bit from opening numbers. It's at 25,959. The doctor who molested young Olympic gymnasts will be sentenced today in a Michigan courtroom. Larry Nassar was sentenced in December to 60 years in federal prison for possessing child pornography. He's facing another 40 to 125 years in prison for pleading guilty to assaulting 7 girls. One of his victims gave her testimony this morning.
My deepest pain and fear was the thought of my 2 young daughters ever being hurt like this.
USA gymnast Simone Biles just revealed she was among athletes sexually abused by that doctor. A former Mount Vernon firefighter has pleaded guilty to possessing child porn. He'll be sentenced in February. The Skagit Valley Herald reports Beau France was arrested last June after an investigation by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security tracked explicit videos on his computer. Because of a plea deal, he'll face just 2 years in prison. 8:33, Cairo Radio, real-time traffic. Sully.
And we continue to have struggles out there.